Good evening and welcome to another special edition of the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart Radio station. I'm your host, Roman. We are taking a break for our normal format again because of our special guest this evening. My guest is the Secretary of State of Illinois, as well as one of the highest ranking member of the Democratic Party in Illinois and most respected. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome back to Secretary of State Jesse White. Welcome back to the Drive.
Thank you, Roman. Glad to be on board.
Again, there is a lot to get to since the last time you was here. So we're going to get right to it. Some of the questions I already know is not in your jurisdiction, but we would like to know your opinion and has gone viral. And we would like to know your thoughts about that. I'm going to start with the first question. The Drive would like to know is a video that went viral regarding the Chicago Alderman Black Caucus fundraiser that happened last week. There was a 19-year-old protester who protested saying, quote, Black Caucus, they don't really care. They're always vote for the mayor. They don't vote with us. Now your time is up. 34th Ward Alderman Kerry Austin told the 19-year-old to shut up as many Black Caucus members erupted in cheers and applause. And Alderman Willie Cochran said, and I quote, there must not be, let me get it right, they must not know we got gangsters in here, end quote. You are a big advocate of voter registration and millennials and encouraging them to vote and make a difference in this upcoming election. What are your thoughts about seeing fellow Black Caucus members behaving insensitive towards the protesters, such as the 19-year-old, and not simply hearing his ideology of why they were doing that?
Well, first of all, I think that you should be respectful toward individuals who are your elected officials. And I think that your thoughts and your ideas should carry the day, but you should do it in a respectful manner. And when you get out of control, then things can go awry. I work with young people. I encourage them to participate in the voting process. I want them to be good citizens. I want them to understand that there's this big, wide, wonderful world out there. And if they're to fit into it properly, we want to make sure they put something between their ears every day of the scalp, which about knowledge and never hears them far. We also want them to love their fellow man and woman and never, ever dislike anyone because of race, creed, or color. I coach a team called the Jesse White Tumbling Team. And we have zero tolerance when it comes to drugs, gangs, and those negative aspects of life, because we want to put these young people in a posture by which our city, our state, and our country will be a better place because they came this way and receive proper tutelage, proper instructions.
You deal with a lot of youth every day, as what you mentioned, the Jesse White Tumblers. You have a passion for grooming them into an outstanding young men and women. However, there has been an increase in gang and crime and drug selling in the communities. People are wondering what they are saying for many years, that Black leadership is not listening to them. No resources in pockets on the South Side and very little resources on the West Side. Have Black leadership failed the Black community, especially millennials?
I don't think so. I think that we have individuals have and parents have a responsibility of making sure that their young people are in school on time every day and have one aim in mind, and that's get the best education possible, because one day they're going to help run this great country of ours. We want them to understand the importance of being a good citizen, obeying the rules and regulations that have been set forth. And sometimes with these young people, they just thumb their nose at the rules and regulations and guidelines that have been set forth. I coach a team called the Jesse White Tumbling Team. I've had over 18,000 young people to come through it within the 59-year period of time. At last count, only 120 have gotten themselves in trouble with the law and have to combat juvenile delinquency. At present, I have 300 young people on my team. We do 1,500 shows a year. We travel all over the world: Zagreb, Croatia, Belize, Israel, China, Tokyo, Japan, Hong Kong, Honolulu, Hawaii, Hawaii, 17 times in Canada. Twice to the Cayman Islands, 4 movies, 4 plays, 25 commercials. We do a lot of shows for the NBA, NFL, tennis, volleyball, soccer, the list goes on and on. I believe that when young, and I also taught school for 33 years, so I know about how to discipline young people and know how to get their attention. And so I'm not a Johnny come lately when it comes to dealing with our youth, but I do believe that we should establish some strong guidelines and rules and regulations for them to abide by and teach them how to get along with the fellow man and woman and how to be good citizens in our society.
Are you saying that it can contribute not only Black leadership, but you're also saying parenting as well?
Well, what I do with my program is doing I'm the TP, the total package, parenting and guidance. Someone helped me along the way, and that's why I have devoted my time with these young people to try to help them to go tall and straight, let them see the world. I've taken them skiing, bicycling, camping, scouting. The list goes on and on, because I believe that when you come through this world, you become successful, you get back. But I also believe that every day you must do something good for someone. I think that people who have become a success in life should take it upon themselves to help these young people to go tall and straight and be the safety net, the light in the tunnel for a lot of these young people.
What you think the millennials are saying to the leaders, to the community, because they're acting out. They're saying nobody is listening. What you think they're saying?
I don't know exactly what they're saying, but I know one thing for sure, and that is they have to understand that there's a society out here and the rules have been established and they must abide by them. My kids have to be leafless, smokeless, and pipeless the only time they can practice pharmacy in a white coat. And then they also found out too that when young people drop out of school and become what's called SW, Sidewalk University, and then they end up hanging around the corners, going to prison, $35,000 a year costs we the taxpayers to put them in prison for 1 year. 83% of the people in prison today have not graduated from high school. So now you know who they are. I know who they are, and I'm working hard as hard as I possibly can to save as many as I possibly can. I need some support in this area, and I would just hope that the parents, the adults, the ones who have become a success in life, will spend a little bit more time with these millennials and let them know that we're counting on them to be the best they can be.
According to Capital Facts, Mayor Rahm Emanuel sent an anti-carjacking bill to Springfield to make it a felony for carjacking. The Black Caucus members blocked this measure, talking about massive Black incarceration with this bill. However, on May 28th of this year, the State House approved an amended version of Mayor Rahm Emanuel's anti-carjacking bill. Can you elaborate on the mayor's bill and what you like to see in the Illinois Senate do with the amended version of the carjacking bill?
I have not seen the amended version, but I do know that it's in violation of the law to take someone else's possession, to harm someone, to put a gun on them, to kill them, to rob them of their possessions. And so I just think that if that within the bill, it speaks to that order, I support it. But the other thing too, and that is these young people have to understand early on, and it comes from home, that there's some rules and regulations out there that speaks to being a good citizen, being a good human being. And when you violate the spirit of the acts that I've just alluded to, then of course there are some consequences that must go forward. And of course, we want to save our young people as much as we possibly can, but at the same time, there's punishment that should be forthcoming if by chance you violate the spirit of the law.
The last time you were here on the drive, you mentioned you are not in favor of term limits. Former Governor Pat Quinn has been going around different communities collecting signatures to put it on the ballot. The Democratic Party, not in favor of term limits. You mentioned you were not in favor of term limits. Why they are not in favor of term limits and want to block this from the ballot?
Well, term limit speaks for itself.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Every election really speaks to term limit. If you are a good public official, then of course the people should appreciate the services that you provided. But if by chance you are not working on in their best be in the, on the best on with the best interest at heart, then of course election day is a time that you can vote them out. So if you're a good public servant, you stay. If you're a bad public servant, you get voted out. That's term limits.
End of story.
End of story.
So what if somebody says, okay, I've done the people's work. I did a majority of the people who wants to get involved in politics, they always say money. It takes money to run. It takes money to have my say so to get out there to the people. What you say to that?
Well, I was a state lawmaker for 16 years. The Cook County Recorder of Deeds for 6. 19 years in this office, running the largest Secretary of State office in the nation. And I've held this position for 19 years. I taught school for 33 years. Served in the military 10 times for a period of 10 years, paratrooper jumping out of airplanes. And then 8 years professional baseball and 59 years with the Jesse White Tubman team. And yet I'm not 150 years of age. I just believe that when you have a good resume and you work every day on behalf of the people who you're sworn to serve, you do that your job and you do it well, then you put yourself in a posture by which you can be reelected and should be reelected.
You are currently supporting J.B. Pritzker
Wholeheartedly, yes.
for governor. However, he was in a campaign ad featuring former Governor Rod Blagojevich talking about former President Barack Obama's Senate seat. In the controversy, JB mentioned in stating that you will be the safe choice for the seat. You were standing with him to support him while he was going on, basically saying the comments. It was like some people thought it was kind of racist. He said, quote, "It was a poor choice of words and a stupid thing to say. Despite the campaign ad, you still support him. Can you set it on the record why?"
Sure. I've known J.P. Pritzker for over 35 years, and he has done a lot of wonderful things in society and for my program and for a building that I presently, it's called the Jesse White Community Center and Field House and the Jesse White tumbling team. And then when I taught school, he was about 35 years ago, he was very supportive of me, made sure that the kids got jackets for winter, parties during the Christmas holidays, jackets, coats, shoes, mittens, gloves, food, the list goes on and on. So I've known J.B. Pritzker for more than 35 years. I know where his heart is. I believe in him. He has the right stuff to become the governor of the state of Illinois. And every day I work toward that end.
What would you say to the naysayers that says basically, why I hear the ad that Governor Runner is running every single day and it's going to influence some African Americans?
It may do that, but the bottom line is, what has Runner done for the people of the state of Illinois? He's talking about the negative aspects of J.B. Pritzker's portfolio, but he hasn't said not once what he has been able to achieve within the 4-year period of time that he's served as governor of the state of Illinois.
How can you convince African Americans to vote for J.B. Pritzker, knowing what he said? How can you convince a voter who's listening to IntellectualRadio.com right now?
But what you do is you take a person's record of helping and assisting and being there to help the poor, the needy, the kids who want to take part in preschool, make sure they have food on the table, and making sure that they have the job opportunities. And he has a history of hiring a lot of people and making it possible for African Americans to become employed. And then you take a statement where you said that Jesse White is the least offensive. Well, that may be negative in one aspect, but when you measure, and he apologized, and I think that it's proper when you say something that's improper or that you regret, you apologize. And then it's up to you to accept that apology. Knowing this man as long as I have, he says, "Jess, I really apologize to you for what I said, and I didn't mean any harm by it." I said, "JB, I accept your apology." And I think that that was the right thing to do. And I make no apologies to anyone for that.
According to the Chicago Tribune, JB spent nearly $11 million on his campaign, advertising 20.1 million dollars as a whole in his campaign. Not 1% of the $11 million went to the black media outlets, including IntellectualRadio.com, despite numerous attempts to come on the show. No answers. Several months ago, the Chicago Defender had the same concerns. How can somebody be friends to the African American community? And, they come out, they try, they do whatever they can to say, okay, come on, come here. People want to hear your say.
Well, JB has been supportive of a lot of efforts put forth by African Americans, but in this particular area, he may have fallen a little short, and I will bring that to his attention. And I guarantee you will see a wealth of change.
Can you give us an example or not yet?
The fruit is in the pudding. And
Okay.
just know that my word is good, and you will see something that's going to happen soon.
Okay. Last time you was here on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station, you had some concerns about the budget. Even you were stated on the record, you hung up on the governor because he refused to negotiate a settlement of the budget because the House, you deal with the lights, you deal with other amenities because you're Secretary of State. The budget is coming up real soon. What are your thoughts of this upcoming budget? And do you believe it will be another stalemate in Illinois if he gets reelected, meaning Governor Runner?
The budget has been settled, and we believe that he's going to sign it, and we're going to move forward with him. But this is the first budget that he has signed in a period of 4 years. Going back a few years when Gorbich was the governor, every year we had a budget, but then he indicated that he was going to do more for my office than what George Ryan had done. And as it turned out, he turned around and he took $50 million from my budget, and I was able to get every penny back. In the case of Runner, he has never initiated a budget. And so now the budget is on his desk, and I just hope that he will fix his signature to it. I run the largest Secretary of State office in the nation, and it's important for me to make sure that I have the tools that I need in order to run this office.
Recently, Governor Runner appointed several water reclamation commissioners. One of them recently was his ally, Ken Duncan. I remember that conversation very well. There you go, smiling. What are your thoughts of Ken Duncan being appointed to the water reclamation seat? Because some believe he was responsible for the stalemate budget, and it went on for almost 3 years. What is he had a party in his office. There was a controversy on that. I would like to know your thoughts on that.
Let's talk about the party in his office. I just thought that he was appointed to celebrate by bringing a DJ into his office where there are other offices adjacent to yours where business is being taken care of or being cared for. For you to have a party type atmosphere is a violation of all laws of good government. I thought that by him appointing Ken Duncan to that position, that he let the people know that Ken Duncan was in the pocket of the Republicans. Now, when it came to the stalemate a few years ago, Ken Duncan refused to appear at his duty station so he could vote. And based on that, we supported Juliana Stratton, who's the lady who's running for lieutenant governor. And she's going to be the first African-American lieutenant governor in the history of the state of Illinois. And it's important for African-Americans to come out and support her because she will be right at JB's side, making sure that he does what he is committed to do and doing work on behalf of the people of the Black community and others as well. But in the case of Ken Duncan, I think that he has lost his the respect from the Republicans, and he has lost respect from the Democrats as well. So I don't know where he's going from here. I would be surprised if he'd ever be able to land on his feet.
Wow. In 2016, well, can I ask you why you say land on his feet?
Well, you see, the Democrats don't trust him, and the Republicans asked him to step down because of some allegations that took place when he was a member of the Illinois General Assembly, and he just refused to budge. And the governor asked him to step down, and he wouldn't do it. The Republicans had asked him to do so, and he again refused to do so. So, and then of course the Democrats know that he's received a lot of money when he's running against Juliana Stratton to get reelected, about $5 million worth. So you don't give a person who's from the other party $5 million if you don't expect something from them.
In 2016, there was a measure put in place that issue no more immediate driver licenses or IDs issued. Instead, a person will receive a temporary paper license. A lot of people were surprised by this. Why the wait in the issue of a temporary paper license?
Well, you're talking about the real ID. That's a federal mandate. All of the states are required to have everyone who is seeking a state ID or a driver's license to become recertified. So you bring in proper documentation. In the past, our clerks would take your information, give you a photo, take a photo of you, and then give you a license. Well, we have a system in Springfield where all of the information that it receives rotates, and they do all they can to make sure that you are who you say you are. So they want to make sure that the proof is in the pudding. Once they have cleared you and know that you are who you say you are, then we will send you a hard copy of the driver's license.
Some people,
and then of course you will now be able to get on an airplane. This is a federal mandate, not something that we came up with out of the clear blue. It's a requirement.
Some people are scared because of it. You pull out a piece of paper if you get pulled over by a police, and you pull out this piece of paper. Same thing with the airport, what you just mentioned. A lot of people don't know it's a federal mandate. Yeah. How can people be informed about the paper?
When they come to the Secretary of State's office, and they're required to bring all the documentation that is required, they are told that you will receive your license in anywhere from a week to 14 days. Most of them are receiving their license within a week to 10 days. So the turnaround is fast.
So no matter if you get pulled over, you make sure
law enforcement are aware of the document. They know, even federal government, when you go to the airport, they know about the document.
On the Kennedy and Dan Ryan Expressway has an electronic PSA system that's on the roads that people look from time to time regarding road safety that leaves a lot of people with some concerns. There was one message in particular on the Dan Ryan and Kennedy Expressway, and I just wanted to bring you up. I knew you was coming on the show. And there was a concern. The messaging said, and I quote, last July, 110 were killed. 10 people were killed. Are you next? You talk about driver safety in Illinois. Do you think the message of doom and gloom to the drivers on the expressway, is that effective?
I think the fear of you being a part of the 110 people who passed away, it would be enough for you to make sure that you keep your eyes on the road, stay away from texting while driving, stay away from talking on your cell phone, keep your eyes on the road. It's a sign or a message that says, be careful while you drive. Keep your eyes on the road.
The way you're saying it is very comfortable, but the way it reads is like 110. Are you next?
Well, there are only so many words that they can put on that screen, and so I guess the person who did it thought that was the best message to send.
Expressway shootings is becoming a norm here in Chicago and across the state. What measures are in place for the expressway driver safety in case of a
That
shooting?
does not come under my jurisdiction, so I'm not aware of what is in place right now. I
Okay.
think it's a violation of all laws of human decency and a cowardly act for you to shoot at someone from your car, not knowing who else is in the automobile.
Organ donor program. That's your baby
Yes.
in your legacy. Recent accounts of organ buying or black market here in Chicago has been on social media for years regarding organ transfers, organ people buying organs, even people who are dead or trying to get organs, so forth and so on. What are your thoughts to these accounts and the laws? Please, for the sake of people who have doubts about organ donors and organ safety, about what's going on the internet.
Okay. First of all, that's a fallacy. I run probably one of the largest organ and tissue donor programs in the nation. We have 6.5 million people who've signed to become a part of the organ and tissue donor program. 5,000 people on the waiting list as we speak, and each year about 300 people die because organs have not arrived in a timely manner. We ask that when you're alive and well, give blood. When you're no longer here, give organs. And when you've done those two things, you'll have made a positive impact upon society. Consider, in fact, that one person can provide life or improve the quality of life for 25 individuals. There are a lot of myths that are out there. One is when you go to the hospital and you're on life support, one of the first things that people say who are not aware of the program, well, they're going to let me die so they can get those 25 organ and tissue parts. Well, your doctor has a commitment to you and to you only. He can't get paid if you're not there. So that's one of the myths. Another is because of religious reasons, I choose not to participate in the organ and tissue donor program. Well, all of the churches in the Western world support the organ and tissue donor program. Or they'll say, well, they're going to sell my organs. Well, we don't sell organs in this country. Or they may say, the rich man's going to get his organs before I get mine. Well, there's an order that we must follow. And so that is a myth. And then finally, they'll say, I may not look good doing my going away. Well, morticians know how to make you look, how well they can. They teach you, they work on you to a point where you don't look so bad in your going away. So that's a myth. And so the selling of organs here in this country, never heard of such a thing. First of all, there's too much involved. You have to have the right blood type. You have to have the right size of the organ. You have to have some medical experience in order to extract the old organ and put the new one in. So no, that's not something that we do in this country.
With the organ donor program, you basically have been deeply affected by it yourself recently. Can you share
Sure.
the story for us, and basically how can you encourage the people, because a lot of people say there's a long list. How can I get on? A lot of people don't know how to get on or what to do. A lot of people are scared out there. So
Well, let me give you my experience. I was a lawmaker, and my sister. But yeah, let me go back to my brother. My brother George was a pharmacist at the Lakeside VA Hospital. And my mother would say to me, your brother George is always complaining about his head aching. I said, Ma, he's a pharmacist and he should know how to take care of a headache. So then finally she said, well, it's far more severe than that. And so can you take him to the doctor? I said, okay, for sure. So I took him to the doctor's office. The doctor said he's suffering from an aneurysm. And so we took him from the doctor's office to the University of Chicago. They put him on life support almost immediately. And then a member from the Regional Organ Bank asked, if by chance he happens to pass away, can we use his organs for transplantation purposes? I said, don't bother me, don't bother us, leave us alone. Well, as it turned out, he passed away that night. And 2 days later, we buried it, but I didn't think any more of the organ and tissue donor program until a few years later, my sister Doris wasn't feeling well and was in dire need of a kidney. And so she put her name on the organ and tissue donor list, and 2 years later, she got a second chance at life. It happened to come, her organ came from a white fellow who had passed away. And so she got it, she passed away 2 weeks ago. She got an extension of 27 years of life because of the organ and tissue donor program. African Americans are in need of at a level of about 68%, but we participate at a level of 32%. How can you go to the Joe food store or whatever the food store is and buy $68 worth of groceries and only have $32? Just won't work. So African Americans need to step up the game because most of the organs that are being donated come from my Caucasian brothers and sisters.
You feel strongly about that. A lot of African Americans are suffering from diabetes, cancer. The list goes on and on.
We lead the list.
How they can get on? Can you tell them some of the measures that they can get on?
Well, first of all, the hospitals, the doctor, they will refer them and give them information about the organ and tissue donor program. And if by chance they need some more information about the program, they can contact me. The director of my program is Connie Boatman. Connie Boatman was one of my students at the Schiller Elementary School where I taught. And she went on to Governor State University, received her master's degree in health education. She is now the director of the organ and tissue donor program. And she's one lady you can contact by calling my office at 312-814-2576, 312-814-2576. And she will direct you to where you need to be and where you want to be in order to give you an opportunity to get a second chance at life or help to improve your quality of life.
Now, you've been busy, as always, but you've been more busy, more ways than one. You have this new program called, and I know I'm going to get it from your secretary here. It's the Bay
device.
Bay device. Can you, it's the breath alcohol interlocking device.
Breath alcohol ignition interlock device.
Thank you. I missed an acronym there.
That's okay.
So can you repeat that again?
It's the BAID device, BAIID, breath alcohol ignition interlock device. If by chance you get cited for DUI, normally you would not be able to drive until your legal matters had been adjudicated. Now we will allow you to continue to drive, but you have to have this device in your automobile. You blow into the tube. If alcohol is detected, then the car won't start. And then as you're driving along, some sounds will emit. You have to blow into the tube again to make sure you do not stop off at the local watering hole to get some strong liquid appeasement. We're talking about some more alcohol. And so 40% of the people who normally would be drinking and driving drunk are no longer drinking and driving because they have this device in the automobile that says you cannot start, the car won't start because you have alcohol in your breath. So it makes our roads safer.
Will it cost the taxpayers any money?
No, it costs the individual about $50, I think, something like that. And then we have a program, so if by chance you don't have money, it's an indigent program where we put the device in free of charge.
Okay. So if they have a teen that if a parent say, okay, I'm going to grant you this license, you can drive on the road, but I want this device in your car.
But not a teen now.
Not a teen.
Not a teenager.
Okay.
Because if by chance you have the teenager driving while they're in the process of getting a license, that's in violation of the program. It's a graduated driver's license program where you cannot have but one authorized person in the car with you for the first 1 year period of time. And because when you have friends in the automobile, you're learning to drive, then they create a problem for the driver. Go through this red light, make a U-turn, pass this car, go through this light. And so they encourage the driver to take chances and do things that they normally would not do. So the bait device is usually for people who are older and people who have gotten a DUI, but if they're a teenager, no.
Let's talk about teen driving. A lot of car accidents is occurring here in Illinois. Do you think the driving age should increase? Because it's a lot of what you think about teen driving. 16, do you think that's too young in the state of Illinois? Should it increase to 18?
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned teenagers because when I was talking with you a few minutes ago about the organ donor program, we just initiated a new program that we initiated from bill that was passed a year ago, that 16 and 17-year-olds can now become a part of the organ and tissue donor program. So we have almost 30,000 young people who have signed to become a part of the organ donor program since January 1. Now let's go back to the teen drivers. We want to make sure that our roads are safe. We want to make sure that these young people, when they get behind the wheel of an automobile, that they have been given proper instructions. So we want to make sure that the driving education program instructor, the parents, they all play an important role in the success of this young person being able to drive successfully on our roads.
Period. So what are you doing differently? I know you've been doing this for many years. What is different now in teen driving?
Well, let me share with you this. There's been a 50% reduction in the loss of lives at the hands of teen drivers because of this program.
Due to your legislation and
watch. Yes. And then, of course, we just want to make sure that parents are involved in this equation as well. Law enforcement, of course, when you go before the judge is going to admonish you as well. So we just want to make sure that our roads are safe. These young people live a long and productive life, and they have to make sure that they should not be on the cell phone, talking or texting. Texting and driving is a no-no. Then the other thing, too, and that is alcohol. Gas and alcohol is a terrible brew. The two should not ever meet. So not only do we want the young children to stay away from alcohol, we also want adults to adhere to the rules of the road.
Speaking of texting and driving on the internet, and that made national news, not in Illinois, but outside. But it gives an example. A police officer was driving on his cell phone, talking, and hit a bicyclist. He's been suspended.
He should be.
A lot of people see this all the time. Police on a phone, texting. The reason I'm playing devil's advocate here is because you put rules on the road for regular people, but sometimes law enforcement doesn't follow it. What you say?
Well, there could be a reason for law enforcement not following it because they may be communicating with someone at the headquarters, telling them where to go and what to do, and maybe he's indicating, I'm on my way.
But they have to do that on cell phone, though?
Well, there's communication. There's some devices that they have in the squad car that they have to key in, like texting.
So couldn't they stop and just...
Well, let me tell you, I think we should have a law enforcement officer here at your studio to answer that question.
Okay, I'm going to move along here. You're participating in the Census Commission that's coming up, money to state congressional seats. Can you explain and elaborate on that?
Well, every year at this time, well, not every year, we're in the process of finding out how many people we have in the state of Illinois. And we want everyone to be counted. And we want to make sure that we have the right number of people, meaning we want everyone counted. And by doing so, we get more money from the federal government. And then, of course, we preserve congressional districts so that right now we could lose some seats if the people are not part of the census program. We'll lose seats if by chance you don't participate in the voting process. So we want people to get registered to vote, and we also want them to take part in the census program. Those are two good venues that the people of the state of Illinois should be involved with.
What are the Democratic Party doing about that? I mean, there's one thing about, okay, I want more people to register to vote. Another is visibility and encouraging people. You can say it in no offense, you can talk until you're blue in the face, but getting people out and doing it is a different story.
Well, I spent a lot of time reminding people that they should discharge their civic responsibilities. If you don't vote, you lose your gripe rights. You cannot complain about anything in society. I remind people too that the streets that they walk on, the buses that they ride, the food that they eat, the medicine that they consume, the doctors that they use, the list goes on and on. That someone in government has established the guidelines and the rules and regulations, and we want them to participate with that process.
It's important more than ever that people are voting because everything is at stake here, including schools, including hospitals, so forth and so on. But you also mentioned libraries as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm the head librarian for the state of Illinois. Better yet, let me go back a little bit. I run the largest Secretary of State office in the nation. I have 4,000 employees, a $396 million budget, 138 offices, 23 agencies, corporate filings and securities, keep of the seal, court of claims. The list goes on and on. I have 5,000 libraries that come into my jurisdiction, and we distribute about $77 million a year in support of the libraries, along with an additional $50 million in form of grants, really designed to help a community whose library need a boiler, or they need to make the library handicap accessible. Now they want to establish a children's unit. So every year I send out money in support of the libraries.
What about the books? Like new books or something like that?
That's going to be left up to the library itself. I give them money. They use the money the best way they can, or the way they choose to run it.
Okay.
Or choose to spend it.
So let's say if I'm in a community, let's say I'm in an Austin community. We need a new library. Let's say a state-of-the-art library. How can I come to you and say, Secretary White, we need a new library?
Well, there's going to be a local effort and a political effort put forth in order to bring that about. Your state representatives, aldermen, the mayor, and the library board. And then, of course, you have to encourage the taxpayers to contribute to this effort. Those things must be in place in order for us to assist in the process.
Okay, so if they have an idea or something, they can contact you.
Sure.
And you'll direct them.
If they have any thoughts or ideas as to how they can establish a library or need some assistance in the process, and of course, they can contact my office.
You've been the head honcho of the Jesse White Tumblers for quite some time.
59 years to be exact.
59 years.
I was a gymnast as a kid. I taught gymnastics in college, taught for the Board of Education Park District YMCA. And I was asked to out of professional baseball with the Chicago Cub organization during the off season to establish put on a gym show. And from the one gym show in December 1959 here on the west side of the city of Chicago came the Jesse White Tumbling Team. We are 59 years old as we speak. In December, we'll be 60 years old. We have had over 18,000 young people. Right now, we have 300 young people on the team. 51 are in college, and we give each one between 3,000 to 8,000 toward their education. You can be a good athlete once you be a good student and a good human being. We want our young people to be leafless, smokeless, and pipeless. The only time they can practice pharmacy is after they're in a white coat. We want them to remember to be in school on time every day and have one aim in mind, that's to get the best education possible. In life, we always want them to look up and aim high and work hard toward being the best they could be. The only time they can look down is to tie their shoes. And then, of course, we want to make sure that they understand that there's this big, wide, wonderful world out there, that we want them to love their fellow man and woman and never ever dislike anyone because of race, creed, or color. When you've been there like I have and done it, then you know how bad it makes you feel. You know how deeply it cuts.
So I know you started as a gym teacher with the Jesse White tumblers.
Yes.
Have you thought about, you know what? I've been here for almost 60 years. Let somebody else take over the ring.
Someone helped me to be where I am today, and I've never forgotten it. So I believe in giving back. I believe in getting involved. And I know that we start early on by working with our youth for us to have a good society out here. And right now, I'm about 60 years with the tumblers, and I don't have any plans or any thoughts on our ideas as to whether I should stop or go forward. Let me back up. I will continue to go forward with the team until I'm unable to do so.
I thought I had an exclusive. I know you're laughing over there. Well, you started something new in your secretary office, and you're thrilled about it, and everybody else. Tell us about this trunk party, and how can people get involved with the trunk party? It happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
So please explain, and how college students, people are getting ready to go to college. People are saying, how can I get involved?
Well, I have a center. It's called the Jesse White Community Center and Fieldhouse. It's at 412 West Chicago Avenue. And J.B. Pritzker was one of the gentlemen who helped me to build the building, since we're talking about J.B. Pritzker. And every year we have a trunk party. This last 2 weeks ago, we had 250 young people for the first segment of our distribution program to receive a trunk. Computers, TVs, laptops, blankets, sheets, toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, the list goes on and on. We gave them all that they needed in order to be successful in college. So now the parents can spend time making sure that these young people have the scholarship paid so that they can remain in college. And so what they must do is, if you're a high school student, you must contact my office and let us know that you are a high school graduate. And then also let us see the paperwork where you've been accepted to a four-year institution. And then you qualify to become a part of the trunk program.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
And they just contact your office?
Contact my office, and we will make sure that they receive all that they need for college.
What is the response?
Outstanding. Matter of fact, we had, 250 kids. We had two segments. We had the early session, and then that was at 10 o'clock, and then the second session was at 2 o'clock. So it was 550 young people received a trunk. And we had another 200 people on the waiting list. They have also been satisfied. And then we had a few more who we're working on trying to satisfy. There's about another 75 people. So we want to make sure that we do all we can to put our young people in a posture by which they can help run this great country of ours.
Can people still participate in the
No, it's every year.
It's every year.
It's every year in July. We have our distribution program.
So the line is cut off right now.
It's cut off now, but then I think we start back in May. March and April and May.
Well, you'll have a promise here. If you guys give it to me, I'll announce it on the air.
Okay,
So,
I'll be glad to
deal?
do that. It's such a deal.
Okay. Okay. You told me when I first came in to ask this question, and I said, I will definitely ask this question before we go on break. So I'm going to ask this question, and, you pulled my leg, so to speak. I thought I had an exclusive here, but you kind of like, man, okay, I want to get another run. It was asked here first that you was retiring. Then several months later, you held a press conference. You said, I'm retiring. Now I hear you are running again for another term for Secretary of State. However, you announced on the Drive at 5 you were retiring. What was the change? And is this your last term for Secretary of State?
This is definitely my last term. Now you have an exclusive.
How can I believe that now?
Take it to the bank, and I promise you that I will not come back here again saying that I'm not going to run for reelection and run. This is it.
This is it.
This is November. I'm on the ballot, and I'm asking people to vote for J.B. Pritzker, Juliana Stratton, and the other qualified Democrats, and save a little love for Jesse White.
Okay, and this is the Long Ranger. So when you come back on the drive on your final days of retirement,
I will not come back asking for favorable consideration from you or anyone else.
now another question: will you retire from Secretary of State and pursue another office such as mayor?
No, I will just remain a volunteer. I believe we as African Americans don't know much about volunteerism. And I've been volunteering for almost 60 years. I want to continue to volunteer because I believe in the value of it, the importance of it. Because we get it and we forget about giving it back. And I believe in paying it forward.
So again, this is your last go round.
This is my last go round. I will never, ever come back before you, Roman, and ask you for favorable consideration for the job of Secretary of State.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that. And I'm going to hold you to that.
Well, let me tell you, I'm not much of a liar, okay? But let me tell you what happened. I was inundated with phone calls, emails, text messages from people around the state of Illinois asking me to consider my decision not to run. And they said that if I didn't run, there would be about 25 Democrats, 25 Republicans vying for the position. And along with the unions and other large organizations, it was unbelievable. I had never been inundated with that many people asking me to reconsider. I yield to it then. I won't yield to it in the future.
Will you groom someone for your position of how you run things as Secretary of State?
Well, we're working on showing people how you run an office. Like, for example, and I forgot to tell you this, if you're 65 years of age and you come to the Secretary of State's office and you want to get a state ID, we give it to you free of charge. And then if you are pregnant, disabled, or senior citizen, we bring you to the head of the line. So we're doing something that other Secretary of State offices are not doing. We're showing love and respect for those who are seniors, for women who are pregnant, and for those who are disabled.
All right. Well, I'm going to hold you to that exclusive.
Hey, as they say in my neighborhood, you're the man.
When we come back on the drive at 5, we'll have a surprise for Jesse White. Coming back on IntellectualRadio.com. And we're back on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. My guest is Secretary of State Jesse White, the highest ranking Democratic member in the state of Illinois. And he announced an exclusive. This is his last go round as Secretary of State. Now, how you feel for retirement? You looking forward to it or what?
I'm looking forward to it. But at the same time, I want to make sure that whoever succeeds me have the same kind of commitment and dedication to the job and to the people of the state of Illinois that I've demonstrated over the past 19 years. I want them to be at that duty station, discharge their duties every day in a manner in which the people could be proud. And when that happens, I will be a happy camper.
Do you have any candidates in mind?
None whatsoever.
None?
None whatsoever. What's going to happen is that there's a vetting process where you listen to a lot of candidates, and the best and the brightest, the sharpest knife in the drawer will be the person that will emerge. And whoever that person is, we wish them well. And we're going to do all we can to encourage him and share with them my knowledge and experience.
Okay, before you present it to the voters.
Yes.
Okay. Again, thank you so much, Mr. White, for coming on the Drive at 5, and I'm going to hold you to that, okay?
Hey, well, man, hey, take it to the bank.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for us on the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer, Wanda, who is behind the scenes, and thanks to you, Baban, your press secretary there, and your Secret Service detail. We had a lot of fun with them and a lot of insight. So you'll be back in a couple of sharing your experience with us about the life of Secretary of State and life of a civilian, right?
No, Wilman, I'll be back later on. I'll be back in a few years, but I'll be back also in a short period of time to share with you some the things that we've done to improve the quality of life or the services provided to the people of the state of Illinois in a timely manner. So that's all I have that I'd like to share with you right now.
Okay. All right.
I'll be back, but I'll be loaded with a lot of information.
And he also an avid fan of the Drive at 5 because it has the drive in it. That's going to do it for us on the Drive at 5 on Intellectual Radio. Dorothy Brown is next week. Have a good week, everyone.